The vibe starts with a vintage commercial that feels straight out of a fever dream. We get introduced to Poppy, this doll who is supposedly the smartest toy ever created. The marketing is giving serious main character energy, claiming she can actually hold a conversation with kids. It is that classic corporate gaslighting where they try to convince you a possessed object is actually your bestie. Honestly, if a doll started roasting me about my shoe-shining skills, I would immediately leave the chat. We pivot to a tour ad for the Playtime Company factory, and the nostalgia bait is real. For a low price, you can see where the nightmares are made, promising a magical hour in the most wonderful place on Earth. Spoiler alert, it is absolutely not magical, and the only thing waiting for you there is a lifetime of trauma and possibly being turned into a plushie. LaPierre, the head of innovation, drops a security tape that is honestly so aggressive for no reason. He is basically telling trespassers that the factory is rigged with alarms and motion triggers. It is a massive red flag that a toy factory needs security tighter than the Pentagon. He is yapping about how it is not too late to turn around, which is the best advice anyone in this entire saga ever gives. Rich is complaining to his co-worker about the inventory situation, and the workplace toxicity is loud. They are stressing about Huggy Wuggy boxes and the orphanage program. It is giving burnt-out employee energy. Rich is suspicious about the lack of boxes, realizing the company is prioritizing the orphanage over actual manufacturing. The math is not mathing, and he is the only one realizing the corporation is cooking up something nefarious. Stella is being interviewed, and she is trying way too hard to romanticize working at a factory. She is talking about how adults are just older kids who eventually die, which is a major vibe kill. Her obsession with staying young forever is practically shouting that she is going to volunteer for some horrific experiment. We get a lore drop from a scientist logging details about Experiment 1006, the prototype. This thing is apparently smarter than everyone else and has zero chill. The scientist admits there was a security breach and the prototype almost escaped. It is the classic hubris of science bros, thinking they can control a monster that definitely wants to delete them from existence. Bro is literally creating his own demise. Another commercial break, this time for Mommy Longlegs. The jingle is catchy, but the visuals are nightmare fuel. They are bragging about how she can stretch and bend in creepy ways. It is supposed to be fun for kids, but looking back, it is just foreshadowing how she is going to chase you through the vents like a stretchy spider demon. The foreshadowing is heavy. We finally meet Huggy Wuggy in the flesh, and he is not here to make friends. He offers a hug, but the vibe is immediately hostile. It is that moment when you realize the mascot character is actually the final boss. The sheer size of this blue furry unit is terrifying, and he starts the chase sequence that basically traumatized the entire internet. The player frees Poppy from her case, and she is acting super innocent, apologizing for scaring us. She hits us with the story about being stuck in there for so long. She promises to help us escape by using the train station. It feels like a trap, but since we have zero other options, we have to trust the creepy doll with the Southern Belle accent. Mommy Longlegs enters the chat and absolutely kidnaps Poppy. She is not happy that we are trying to leave without playing her twisted little games. She drags Poppy down into the darkness and tells us that if we want the train code, we have to win 3 games. It is basically Squid Game, but with colorful plastic and way more stretching. Hi there. If you want to enjoy more gaming lore without grinding for 60 hours, hit that subscribe button. I do the grinding so you don't have to. Your support really helps the channel. Stella's voice returns over the intercom to introduce the game station. Her enthusiasm is incredibly jarring considering we are fighting for our lives. She explains that we need to collect parts of the train code by completing these tests. It is clear these games were never meant to be fun. They were performance reviews for the orphans to see who was strong enough for experiments. We survived the first game, Musical Memory, which was basically Simon Says on steroids with a murderous bunny watching us. Mommy Longlegs is impressed but also disappointed we did not get crushed. She hands over part of the code, but the passive-aggressive energy is off the charts. She implies there are plenty of other ways to play with us, which is a threat, not an invitation. We find a tape from a disgruntled employee who got demoted to the island of misfit toys. He is ranting about how the company ignored his complaints about safety. It is a classic case of corporate gaslighting where, if you notice the giant monsters roaming the halls, you get sent to the basement to think about your actions. His sarcasm is the only relatable thing in this dungeon. Next up is Huggy Wuggy. The instructions are simple. Hit the Huggies coming out of the wall before they jump scare you into the afterlife. It is a reaction test designed to identify the kids with the best reflexes for scientific reasons. The tension is high because these mini Huggies are relentless and the lighting is absolutely doing us no favors. Marcus is being interviewed about seeing a massive creature, essentially PJ Pugapillar, hiding in the dark. His boss is totally dismissing him, telling him to get back to work and stop making up stories. It is the ultimate proof that management does not care, except Marcus is genuinely terrified. The administration refusing to acknowledge the eldritch horrors in the hallway is peak capitalism. Mommy Longlegs is absolutely losing it now. We survived the statues game with PJ Pugapillar, and she realizes we are not just some helpless kid. She drops the facade and starts screaming about how we left her to die alone in the factory years ago. The shift from playful mommy to vengeful monster is instantaneous. She decides the games are over, and it is time to just straight up unalive us. The final showdown with Mommy happens, and she gets caught in the industrial grinder. It is a gruesome scene. As she is being crushed, she screams that he will make her part of him. We see the prototype's needle-like hand reach out and drag her remains away. It is a grim confirmation that the prototype is building himself out of the fallen toys. Absolutely metal. We find a tape from Jimmy, the marketing guy, explaining how he names the toys. He thinks slapping an E sound at the end of a name like Huggy or Mommy is genius marketing. He is wildly arrogant about his branding skills. It is hilarious that while horrors are unfolding, this guy is just patting himself on the back for inventing the name Kissy Missy. This segment seems to be a flashback or a different perspective of the hide-and-seek game. Mommy counts down with menacing glee. The tension of hiding from a creature that can stretch her limbs into any vent or crevice is high. It reinforces that the factory was basically a hunting ground long before we showed up. A scientist logs a report about the prototype nearly breaching containment. He used parts of an alarm clock to make a laser pointer and disable the cameras. Bro is literally MacGyver. He hid in a blind spot and killed a specialist. The log confirms that 1006 has unprecedented intelligence and is actively manipulating the staff. He is not just a monster, he is a mastermind. We wake up after the train crash. Poppy is there and her tone has shifted. She says we are perfect and that she cannot let us leave yet because we are capable of fixing the mess. She effectively takes us hostage, guilt-tripping us into staying to kill the prototype. We thought we were escaping, but we just got drafted into a war. We get introduced to the smiling critters via a news report. CatNap is the main focus, a purple cat that releases red smoke to help kids sleep. Except, oops, the kids are having violent nightmares. The company recalls the toys, but the damage is done. It is a creepy look into how Playtime Company was experimenting with gas and sleep regulation on children. A counselor is being grilled about an incident where a child saw a colorless monster during sleep. The gaslighting continues as the higher-ups try to brush it off as a bad dream. The counselor is genuinely worried, describing the kid's terror, but the administration just wants to cover it up. It shows that the staff knew exactly how dangerous CatNap's red smoke was. We get a call from Ollie, our new mysterious ally. He sounds like a kid and guides us through the Playcare. He is incredibly helpful, giving us keys and explaining the battery systems, but it is almost too good to be true. He tells us CatNap worships the prototype as a god. Ollie is basically our GPS through hell, assuming he is actually real. We watch an old tape of Elliot Ludwig, the founder, giving a speech about Playcare. He talks about creating a safe haven for orphans, a place of smiles and hope. The irony is suffocating because we are standing in the ruins of that safe haven, which is now a damp, moldy dungeon filled with killer toys. His dream of a perfect orphanage aged like milk. Ollie directs us to the gas production zone. This is the heart of the evil, pumping out the red smoke that keeps the toys docile and hallucinating. Our mission is to divert the smoke to kill CatNap. It is an industrial nightmare zone, and Ollie warns us that the machine has safeguards. We are basically performing unauthorized plumbing in a toxic gas facility. There is a welcome home tape that is pure psychological warfare. It describes returning to the factory only to be hunted by things that used to be human. It vividly describes monsters with mouths full of plastic and meat waiting in the shadows. It is a threat directly to the ex-employees, telling them that their return is not a homecoming. It is a feeding time. We meet Kissy Missy, and surprisingly, she does not try to rip our face off. Poppy introduces her as an ally. They need our help to end the madness. It is a rare moment of alliance in a game where everything wants to kill you. Poppy explains that the prototype is the root of all evil, and he needs to be taken out for the torture to end. We enter the school, which is arguably the scariest place yet. The intercom introduces Miss Delight, the teacher. We find notes revealing that she killed the other teachers to survive and ate them. She is completely unhinged, obsessed with her students who are clearly gone. The atmosphere shifts from industrial horror to psychological survival horror. The confrontation with Miss Delight is intense. She moves only when we are not looking, weeping angel style. She mocks us, laughing about how we are going to die just like the others. We eventually trap her or crush her, ending her reign of terror in the school. It is a huge relief to get out of that classroom. We find DogDay, the last of the smiling critters, chained up in a cell. He is missing his legs, which is horrifying. He tells us that CatNap worships the prototype as a savior. DogDay tries to warn us to leave, but the mini-critters swarm him and finish him off. It is a tragic end for the only genuinely good guy we have met down here, besides maybe Kissy. Ollie explains the shrine we found. CatNap built it for the prototype because 1006 saved his life during an accident. To CatNap, the prototype is not just a leader, he is a deity. This explains why CatNap is so fanatical and willing to kill anyone who opposes the prototype's will. We are dealing with a religious cult leader in the body of a purple cat. We get hit with the red smoke and go on a hallucinogenic trip. The voice tells us to find the flower. The reality bends and we see twisted visions of the factory and the guilt we carry. It is a psychological attack, forcing us to confront the fact that we were not there when the bad things happened, and now we are walking through the graveyard of our former co-workers. CatNap is defeated, electrocuted in the final battle. The prototype's hand descends, but instead of helping his loyal follower, he kills CatNap and takes his body. It is brutal betrayal. Poppy then shows us a tape called The Hour of Joy. It reveals the truth. The toys coordinated an attack and slaughtered every human in the factory in 1 hour. Absolute carnage. Poppy narrates the horror of The Hour of Joy. She describes the screams and the senseless slaughter. The toys did not just kill the guilty scientists, they killed everyone. Then they dragged the bodies down to the lower levels to eat them to survive. It paints the toys not just as victims, but as desperate monsters who crossed a line they can never come back from. We take an elevator down with Poppy to go hunt the prototype. But suddenly, Kissy Missy, who stayed behind, is attacked. We hear her screaming over the intercom. Poppy is distraught, but we cannot go back up. We are forced to descend deeper into the factory's underbelly, leaving Kissy to an unknown fate. The stakes just skyrocketed. Ollie calls us one last time before we enter the lower levels. He warns us that what we saw above was nothing compared to the hell below. He says the piles of dead came from inside here. His tone is grimmer than usual, emphasizing that we need to keep our guard up constantly, because this is the prototype's actual lair. We enter a prison section and a new voice mocks us. This is the doctor, who seems to have transferred his consciousness into a machine or system. He is arrogant, watching us through cameras, treating us like another test subject. He is fascinated by our survival skills, but clearly intends to dissect us emotionally and physically. Chaos erupts in the prison. The toys are rebelling against the doctor. He starts panicking, realizing his control is slipping. He begs the warden for the Omni Hand, a device that controls the facility. He tries to bargain, promising safe passage if we help him. It is satisfying to hear the arrogant scientist suddenly terrified of his own creations. A flashback tape of an executive meeting reveals the corporate plotting against Sawyer. They wanted to remove him because his experiments were becoming a liability and a money pit. They discuss knocking him out of the equation without killing him, likely leading to his current state trapped in the machine. Playtime politics were just as cutthroat as the toys. We meet a new character, Doey, a large clay-like monster. Surprisingly, he is friendly. He offers to guide us through the prison. He admits he is hungry, but promises not to eat us. Doey seems naive and childlike, a stark contrast to the sophisticated malice of the doctor. He leads us through the interrogation rooms, sharing his trauma. We stumble upon a scene where workers are counting bodies. They refer to the Playtime Butcher, a mythical figure among the toys. The workers are callous, treating the dead experiments like inventory. It reinforces the cruelty of the humans that led to the uprising. The summary implies the player is being viewed as this butcher figure by the toys. Poppy and the player regroup at a safe haven. Poppy reveals her plan: fill the foundation with red smoke and ignite it with mining charges to blow the whole factory sky high. It is a scorched earth policy. She wants to end it all. However, Doey and other toys are hesitant because the factory, despite its horrors, is the only home they have. Doey pleads his case. He explains that the toys in the safe haven are his family. He argues that destroying the factory means destroying them too. He asks us to consider if revenge is worth sacrificing the innocent toys who are just trying to survive. It introduces a heavy moral dilemma: destroy the evil at the cost of the victims, or try to save them. We get a flashback of the construction of the prison. The contractor is arguing with the executives, asking why a toy company needs a high-security prison. The exec, likely Pierre or Sawyer, threatens him with his contract. It shows the premeditated nature of the cruelty. They planned to imprison the experiments from the very beginning. A devastating log reveals Doey's origin. He was a problem child named Kevin Barnes, who did not get along with others. Dr. Sawyer decided he was the perfect candidate for the raw dough experiment, stripping away his humanity because he was aggressive. It turns the lovable giant into a tragic victim of a system that punished troubled kids by turning them into monsters. We confront the doctor face to face. He monologues about how Poppy does not actually care about us, claiming she is just using us like a tool. He tries to sow discord, painting himself as a visionary who was betrayed by small-minded executives. He challenges our morality, asking if we are really any different from the monsters we fight. The doctor realizes he is trapped. The executives in a flashback tell him he is going to be wired into the infrastructure permanently. He is furious, screaming about his intellect being wasted. In the present, he is bitter and desperate. It is a poetic justice that the man who treated people like objects is now literally a piece of the building's hardware. The doctor forces us into a sadistic choice. To open the door, we have to kill a small, helpless toy or let the doctor live. He mocks our hesitation, calling it a moral high road. It is a test of our resolve. The summary implies we have to make a hard call, likely sacrificing the small toy to proceed, proving that survival requires dirty hands. A flashback shows a worker, Rich, talking to a young employee who is fed up with the company. The kid wants to rebel, but Rich advises him to keep his head down. It adds depth to the human element because not everyone was evil. Some were just trying to keep their jobs in a nightmare factory. It makes their eventual deaths in the hour of joy even sadder. We are fixing the generator with Doey. Ollie is on the comms giving instructions, but things feel off. Doey is suspicious of Ollie, sensing a trap. We have to override chipset protocols and swap surge protectors while the defenses are down. The tension is high because we are vulnerable, and the trust between the allies is fracturing. A heartbreaking scene where parents visit their sick child who has been turned into a monster. The parents are horrified, but the mom refuses to leave her son, Jack. The boy, fully monster-fied, tells them to leave before he hurts them. It is one of the darkest moments, showing the human consciousness trapped inside the beasts. Doey snaps. The trauma and the conflicting orders push him over the edge. He blames the player and Poppy for everything, screaming that we ruined their home. He attacks us in a blind rage. It is tragic because he was our friend, but the stress of the situation and his own instability turn him into a boss fight we did not want. After the fight, Doey is defeated and broken. He apologizes, crying that he just wants to go home. Poppy tries to comfort him, but the damage is done. It reinforces the theme that there are no winners here. Even the monsters are just scared kids who have been tortured into madness. We leave him behind, adding to our guilt. The ultimate plot twist drops. Poppy calls out to Ollie, realizing he lied about the explosives or the plan. The voice on the other end shifts. It is not Ollie. It never was. It is the prototype mimicking a child's voice to manipulate us the entire time. We have been doing the villain's dirty work, clearing the path for him. We are absolutely cooked. The prototype speaks directly to Poppy. He mocks her, telling her that her friends are dead and she has nothing. He invites her to come home. He reveals that he knows everything. It is a chilling villain monologue where he strips away all our hope. He has been pulling the strings since we walked in the door. Poppy is devastated. We find ourselves in a new, even weirder section of the lab. A video plays about wrong-side-out animals, toys that are inverted inside out. It is body horror central. The aesthetic is cute but gory. We are in the deep labs where the most twisted biological experiments happened. The visuals of cute animals turned into meat pretzels are disturbing. We stumble through the sewers and meet Gil, a scrappy survivor toy. He identifies us as the Playtime Butcher, a name the toys have given the player. He is wary but willing to help because he hates the prototype too. He has got a rough, street-smart vibe, living in the literal filth of the factory to avoid the hunters. Gil takes us to his hideout. It is a makeshift home in the sewers. He tells us that Poppy's plan to blow up the factory was known, and while he thinks it is extreme, he respects the hustle. He offers to gear us up with better equipment from the boilers. He is the first straightforward ally we have had in hours who is not trying to manipulate us. We meet Chum, Gil's partner. They have a plan to use a negation formula to stop the prototype. Apparently, Playtime Company made a chemical to neutralize the experiment's healing factor. We need to raid the reanimation area to get it. It is a fetch quest, but with high stakes. We finally have a weapon that can actually hurt the big bad. A flashback sequence puts us in the shoes of Huggy Wuggy during his conditioning. We see how the scientists tortured him, forcing him to play games and punishing him when he failed. It recontextualizes the Chapter 1 chase. Huggy was not just a monster. He was a tortured animal conditioned to attack. It makes you feel bad for the blue guy. We stumble into a surreal joy party. The toys are dancing in a trance, chanting about being happy forever. It is a cult. They repeat "I am a toy" over and over, dissociating from their pain. It is terrifying because they are essentially lobotomized by trauma, desperate to believe the lie that being a plastic monstrosity is paradise. The cult leader encourages the toys to reject their organic parts and embrace the soft plastic. It is body dysmorphia weaponized. They throw bad toys into a box, which is anyone who resists. The player is spotted and obviously does not fit the joyful toy vibe, so the horde turns on us. We have to blend in or run. We encounter Lily Love Braids, a doll who is hosting a tea party with rotting corpses. She is completely delusional, believing the dead bodies are her guests. She talks to them as if they are alive. It is deeply disturbing. She wants to braid hair and eat crumpets, oblivious to the carnage around her. We have to play along to survive. We try to sneak away from Lily's party, but she catches us. Her demeanor flips from sweet hostess to psycho jailer. She insists we cannot leave before the special guest arrives. She claims the guest will be thrilled to see us. It is clear the special guest is the prototype or one of his executioners, and we are the main course. The prototype arrives or speaks. He reveals that Poppy is responsible for the orphan's disappearance or death. Poppy breaks down, realizing her crusade caused more harm than good. The prototype mocks her, calling her a child who needs to be fixed. The psychological dismantling of our main ally is complete. Poppy is left shattered. Lily throws a tantrum because we ruined her party. She screams that it is all our fault. We push a button holding her cloud platform, and everything comes tumbling down. Lily screams as she is crushed by the cloud. It is a chaotic end to the party from hell. We link up with the train again. It is a final, desperate run. We are switching tracks, picking up speed, trying to outrun the prototype. It is high-octane action. We are hurtling towards the end of the line, hoping the brakes work this time. We are just trying to survive. After the train explodes, the prototype comes crawling out of the wreckage. Why won't this guy just die already? The group turns around in horror and attempts to run away, but we are caught and stabbed by the prototype. In the final moments, the prototype drags us over to a container of poppy gel and drops us inside to die. The scene begins to fade to black as we lose consciousness, but Giblet appears and brings us back to life with an electric shock. The race is on to find Poppy and the prototype. Gaming lore is long and confusing, but I break it down every week. Subscribe so you never miss a plot twist or hidden detail. Thanks for watching.